everybody and welcome. My name's Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. Today is a little tutorial on SKYFALL. So that's just recently come out in a cinema. It was written by Paul Epworth and Adele Adkins, and of course it was sung by the famous Adele anyway. So I thought I would do a little tutorial for you for SKYFALL. But what I thought I would do different today that I haven't done in perhaps the other tutorial videos I've done is that I've actually mic'd up my violin now, and I've got it all going through my little recording mixing desk that I've got down here in front of me. I'll be putting on a set of headphones on in just in seconds. So the sound that you're actually going to hear is going to be a very crisp, clear sound, because I'm actually going to be recording it live whilst I'm standing here in front of the camera. But then of course I'll be putting that over the top, so you will really see what I've actually just everything that I've just shown you. But I'll just be dubbing it over the top. I thought that I could then put a little bit of reverb on, rather than having the backing track coming out of the CD player that I've got in the corner here, and then the sound of the violin that you get in the room. It's just going to sound a little bit rubbish. So today I thought I would actually put it through my recording, my recorder, and mix it for you, and then so you can hear a really good version of that. So here is a little bit of SKYFALL. Okay, so that was just the first little section of SKYFALL there that I thought I would play for you. Now to start off, we've got 3 flats in the key signature. It's a key signature. So this piece is actually in C minor. So for the violin, it's kind of semi-good news. The violin likes flat keys, but it doesn't like too many flats in the key. So for us, it means that we've got B flats that are going to be back. By the way, this is mostly on the A and the E string. I think I might be right in saying that this doesn't actually go down to the D string at all. If it does, it's only going to go down 1 note, but I don't actually think it does at all. So this means that your first finger is going to be back if you want to do a B flat. If you're going to do a B flat on the E string, then that one's going to be back as well. You've got a few E flats, so they're going to be 4th fingers. Don't do open strings, because they're going to sound really odd if you're trying to do an E flat. And then you've got and then you're sticking in an open E. So no open E strings, please, people. 4th fingers. And then you've got A flats as well. The only A flat that you've got is when you've got the chorus. So that's quite a nice one actually, because when you're doing so it's over the page for me, sorry. So let the sky fall when it crumbles, you've got 2 C's to 2 G's, and then when you have the when it crumbles going up to the A flat, it's nice because you can just pop that A flat right in beside that G that you've got there. When you're doing that chorus bit, I know I'm jumping ahead a bit here, but when you're doing that chorus, what I do is stick my second finger down on both strings and then just kind of just roll it, almost like you sort of would with a little bit of vibrato really, but I'm just rolling it through both strings. So I've actually positioned my second finger right on those two strings there, right in the middle. So I'm not just on the E, I'm not just on the A, I'm right in the middle, because I know I'm going to need both. And then I just sort of, that means I can just ever so slightly twist and I don't have to take my finger off. If you try and take it off and put it down again on the E string, then you're going to get the horrible kind of open A sort of sound in the middle. And if you go, alternatively, if you go from the E to the A string, you're going to get that horrible E string sound in the middle of it, and it's supposed to be E flat anyway, so it's just going to sound really bad. So just, I know I jumped ahead, but just going back to the start there, when it starts, I mean, if you've got the ability to perform this, or, you know, you want to play it in public or something like that, I personally, and other people might not necessarily agree, but I really like to drench the violin with reverb. I know lots of people are probably going to tell me off for doing that, but within reason, obviously. But I really do like a lot of reverb on the violin, especially with something like this, because from what I can tell from the recording of Adele actually singing this, I believe that she does actually have a lot of reverb on it, and she might have some other effects on there as well, but it does sound like she's got quite a bit of reverb on, probably more than the average pop song. So I generally find when you use a lot of reverb that you can create a nice wide open sound. It can give it a really nice atmosphere as well. So I just wanted to give it that kind of air of mystique, a little bit of eeriness. It just kind of really matches the song. So that's why I've put probably more reverb than other people might agree, but I like it anyway. So if you can play this if you want to do a performance of this, then I would suggest that you know, using a good amount of reverb will help create the atmosphere. It will also fit in quite nicely with the background music as well. So moving on from that, the piece of music that I'm actually looking at for Skyfall, I will put a link underneath it where you can get the music. It's actually for piano and vocals, so I have got a piano part there as well, so that's always quite handy to have. I've got a vocal part as well, which obviously is the part I'm following, and there are some chord symbols above as well, and there are tab as well. So it's one of those kind of piano, vocal, guitar kind of books, so it's great. So it's one of those books that suits all. I'll put a link in the description if I can find the book for you of where to buy it, so you can get hold of it. And it's also got a backing track or backing CD to go with it as well. It is just Skyfall on its own, there's nothing else, and I think it was £5, £4.99, something like that. So it didn't break the bank for me. Okay, so moving on from the whole reverb thing, there aren't, because it is a vocal line, there aren't any phrase marks for the singer, or there aren't any kind of, obviously there are no bowing marks because it's a vocal line. So if you probably noticed, I wasn't playing it separate bows, I was slurring a lot of the bows, but to be perfectly honest, each time I played it, I might have slurred it ever so slightly different. So instead of going gives it that kind of really separated feel. So I know that I wasn't using any vibrato there, of course, either. Just so you could get a better idea of what that's going to sound like. But if you do, I'll move on to vibrato in a second, but what I would suggest is that you do slur some of these notes. So if you have gotten around to doing slurred bowing on the violin, either with scales or with pieces, you will probably find that the slurring you do probably comes really naturally. So like I say, I do different things each time, but to start with, I start off with an up bow. I generally tend to start with an up bow if I've got sort of an upbeat to the note, and I do here, so. does create it creates much longer phrases. It makes the whole thing sound softer, and it's just like it's like we all are trying to do with the violin, where the violin is always trying to imitate the voice. The violin will never imitate the voice, obviously, because it's a completely different instrument, but one can always aim to kind of imitate the long legato lines that you can create with your voice. Obviously you'll be able to create it in a different way with the violin. So as well as trying to do the slurred bows, I would suggest that you use really long bows as well. And when I say long bows, I mean you really do need to go right to the heel of the bow. That is not the heel of the bow, and that's only using a small portion of the bow. That is the heel of the bow, and here is the very point of the bow. So in order to create the long legato lines and the smooth phrases, you need to use a lot of bow as well. So I'm using all the bow there, and it means that I can create more depth, more expression and more tone, because the more bow I have to work with, the more of all of those things that I can create there. So you must use nice long lengthy bows there. In terms of the rhythm, I know it's slightly changing the rhythm. Nobody really plays exactly what they see on the music, especially when it comes to pop songs. I honestly don't think that the music that I'm looking at right now, or the music that the melody line, I was trying to think of something. The melody line that Adele actually sings is not exactly what she sings. So the sheet music I've got doesn't exactly match up with what she sings when you hear her on the radio or, you know, TV, whatever. So I am slightly altering that, but I'm going by the words as well. I've listened to it. I've listened to Adele sing the original song as well a few times, and I've kind of put that together. And, you know, again, it might not be 100% perfect, but it doesn't matter. People know the name of the tune. Not many people are going to know the whole words from start to finish anyway, but most people don't really care about that sort of thing. So with the rhythm, don't get too bogged down with doing it with the rhythm. With these sorts of things, I always suggest just go with how you know the song. Listen to the song a few times, be familiar with it, and then just sort of use what you see on here as very loosely as a sort of blueprint sort of thing. When you get to the chorus, so let the sky fall when it crumbles. So I did at the beginning, because I got so excited, start to talk about holding the second finger over there. So hold the second finger over the two strings, and all you've got to do is just slightly twist here and there. When it gets to we will stand tall and face it all together, let the sky fall, then you've got a C there. Now there are two ways of doing this. The C is just above the fourth finger B, so if you had sort of a fifth finger, that's where the C would be. Now you can go into third position, which is exactly what I did, or you can do it with a fourth finger. Fourth finger I find is a little bit dodgier, just because you're not always going to be sure how much you've got to stretch. And for most of you who are familiar with going into third position as well, you'll probably find moving from first to third quite a natural transition there. So let the, and then that's when I go back, sky fall, to go. So that's when I go back. So if I do the whole chorus. So that's when I go back, and that just repeats again as well. So doing it with a fourth finger. You end up doing a lot of ones to fourth finger E's, which again, the fourth finger E's, you tend to lose the tone a little bit because the fourth fingers don't have a nice tone to them, because they're our weakest finger. So we generally tend to avoid them. And another reason, vibrato is very difficult to do that with on the fourth finger. Even if you can do vibrato, I can do vibrato on the fourth finger, but I admit it's nowhere near as nice as all the other fingers. So I'm going to avoid it. So I would suggest when it gets to we will stand tall that you, and you can slide up to it as well. So you can practice sliding if you want. You don't have to have a break there. Sorry, I jumped ahead a bit there. So you can have little slides in the violin. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean as well. And we will stand tall and face it. So when she's singing as well, she's sliding through some of the notes with her voice that you can't necessarily do on the violin as well. So going back to the beginning there, you can actually play around with the octaves of this. So I did it as an octave. I did it in the octave it was written, so I was mainly on the A string and the E string there. But if you wanted to play around the octaves to add a little bit of variety, so you're playing on the D string, the G string and the D string, if you want to, and then when it gets to the chorus, you can do it up an octave, and you can go back down an octave. Then you can go. It's up to you how you want to play with the octaves there. So that might add a nice little bit of variety. If you do want to start down an octave, so you're playing. It starts with the D and the E. Just above middle C, and then it goes down to middle C. This is the end. Then I would suggest that you do that in third position. Otherwise you're going to be jumping an awful lot of strings to do it in first position. So it would be nice if you could do it in third position. When you got to the second time the verse comes around, you can play it an octave higher. Or when it gets to the chorus, you can play that down an octave at middle C, and then you can play. So it's just entirely up to you how you want to play this through here. But yeah, I don't really think there's anything else I can probably mention. Just moving into third position for when it comes a little bit of the chorus there. Other than that, everything is down in first position. Again, if you want to change the octaves and play it down near the middle C, so you're on the G string and the D string, then that's great. You can obviously have yourself some kind of format, so you know whether you're up or down, or you know where you're going and all that kind of thing. And just really smooth bowing. So try and if you know the song and you can sort of sing the song in your head with it as well, you can try and move the bowing along with that as well. So rather than this is the end, hold your breath and count to 10, that's how it's going to sound when you're doing it all separate bows. So if you can slur those bows, sorry. So when she's sort of holding her notes, you hold your bow. So hold your breath and count to 10. So as I'm sort of saying it is sort of how I'm bowing it. I wouldn't go hold your breath and count, hold your breath and count to 10. So I could have done hold your breath and all in one bow. So it's up to you how you really want to do that. So yeah, this is just a quick little tutorial on how to play Skyfall. There isn't really an awful lot to mention to it. It's a pretty straightforward piece. To be perfectly honest, the music and the backing really does just do it all, and all you've got to do is just turn up and play it, and the rest of it is just golden, really. So the piece really does play itself. It's a really, really good, fun piece to do. The backing track is just absolutely, the song is amazing, the film is amazing. If you haven't seen the film, go and see it, or you must go and see the film especially if you're a James Bond fan. Then it's really good. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll catch you all next time.